What you are listening to is real. The parties involved are not cool. They are actual geeks with a case pending in the court of public opinion. The party's case has been dismissed, and the dispute will be settled here on our podcast. There will be no lawyers. There will be no witness testimony. The judge's decisions are final.
Hello, I'm Judge Ivan.
I'm Judge Jonathan, and this is Geeks on Trial. Today's case, Backstabbing Book Club.
Welcome to Geeks on Trial. This is the podcast where we settle petty disputes between actual geeks over movies, video games, board games, and more. If you'd like to submit your own geeky case for future episodes, you can email us at geeksontrial@gmail.com. You can also support the show over at patreon.com/geeksontrial for just a few bucks a month, and you'll gain early access to both our audio and our video episodes before they are released to the general public.
Ivan, before we get into today's case, I thought we could have a little discussion about the end of society, which is imminent.
Oh, boy.
All thanks to these two little letters. You know which two letters I'm talking about?
No.
Hey, where's my gavel? Oh, here it is.
N-O?
Are you answering the question, or is that your guess?
You're going to have to find out and maybe ask somebody.
Okay, well, the two letters I'm thinking of are I and A, not necessarily in that order. In fact, reverse it. AI, which is artificial intelligence.
AI, is that an Italian thing that you have going on here?
Wouldn't you
AI.
love to hear the gang in Goodfellas discuss AI?
Or in, what's the other?
The Sopranos?
The Tarantino movie?
Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I could have given you a funny answer, but I didn't.
You didn't?
Now,
I mean, we could ask AI. AI wrote this entire thing, by the way.
yeah, we should. We're going to do an episode entirely scripted by AI, and at the end there will be some kind of a moral lesson, because that's what it likes to do. When I talk about AI, everybody knows listening to this, AI is in the zeitgeist. Mainly because of these chatbots that have been gaining traction. Well, before the chatbots, it was the art, right? The AI-generated illustrations and paintings and things.
Which is mainly where I know most of my AI from playing with those art apps and art sites.
Interesting, because see, I never really played around with the art, but I have played around quite a bit with the ChatGPT. 3 more letters for you. And now, of course, Bing has one. Google's working on one. I think to varying degrees of success. But I feel like every week I see a story about a new AI development that blows my mind, that I feel like wasn't possible the week before.
Right. I don't know.
The
my
pace
original,
at which the pace at which they're developing, I'm just saying, is very.
Oh yeah.
In some ways alarming.
Yeah, it's. At this point, do you think like AI is just building these things? Like AI is now working to build new AI. They're saying it's like, oh, Apple is doing AI and Microsoft. No, it's AI building AI. But my original AI that I grew up with was Smarter Child. You remember Smarter Child on AIM?
Not the Haley Joel Osment picture as we were discussing earlier.
Was it Smarter Child?
Smarter Child.
Yeah. That was AI, right?
That was AIM. Sorry, you left that one there for me.
Huh.
Yeah,
that's right.
Piece that together.
Right.
Yeah, Smarter Child was, for all the Zoomers who don't know. Well, first of all, there used to be a messaging service. It was kind of like Discord, but you weren't on it all the time. Does that explain what AOL Instant Messenger was?
We were.
You had to, if you left, you put up an away message.
Right.
Anyway, there was a chatbot on there called Smarter Child, and the concept behind that, I think, was it would learn from the people it spoke to.
Right.
I don't know if it was that complicated, but I feel like it did that, where if somebody talked to it a lot about a movie, then the next person would, if they asked about that movie, Smarter Child would know about it, but it wasn't smart enough to know anything.
Right.
It wasn't
like
even close to today's tech.
No, it wouldn't search the web. I don't think it had access to certain things. I mean, the web had a lot less info than it does now.
It didn't, like the whole thing with ChatGPT is it has a database fed into it.
Right.
I don't think Smarter Child had a database. It just had a grammar base.
I think it basically just just spewed back your words to you.
Yeah, like it looked for keywords and knew, oh, they said hello, so probably I'll say hello too, stuff
Right.
like that. Like it didn't actually and that's kind of true even now. The current chat bots, there's a lot of, I think, misinformation about what they actually are, and I think for the most part they don't actually know what you're saying either. They're just
No.
extremely good at faking it.
Oh yeah, they're definitely just really good at small talk and like really good at just repackaging words and like regurgitating just facts back at you.
Yeah, yeah, but I love ChatGPT. I have for some things started using it, as I know others have, as a replacement for Google searches.
Interesting.
Because sometimes, I don't want to go through the SEO driven ad
Right.
pages and clicking through top 10 slideshows or whatever. I
And
can
making
just
sure that it's like not a scam ad and not just like, oh, they want me to buy, underwear subscriptions and,
yeah, like if I wanted to know, like I was curious, what was the box office of a movie, or what,
Right.
what time is it in the UK right now? I could probably Google those things. I could just ask ChatGPT, and I find it's often faster and smarter. And now, not yet. We'll see what happens, but kind of like the early Google. It hasn't been bogged down by all the SEO stuff, which I feel like
Right.
it's the same reason I will always add Reddit to the end of any of my search queries on Google now, because it just you get to a human being answering your question instead of
Yeah.
someone trying to make money.
I mean, don't get like give it time. There will be ad supported things in it because from what I know, and I don't know a lot about the AI chat stuff, but it's very expensive to run. And at some point, they're going to have to start selling ad space to people to recoup this money because I'm pretty sure I forgot what podcast I was listening to, but it's like basically a penny every time somebody searches,
Right.
or like it's like a penny every minute or something along those lines. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think it
But
depends on what the query is and how much data, but yeah, it might be like tenths of a penny, but even that adds up.
right,
And
because especially
when
the
there's
amount
millions
of
of people, yeah, using
and
it.
the amount of time people are using it throughout the day. Like right now, I've been noticing there's a lot of advertisements on like Facebook and stuff. Like, hey, you forgot to do your homework tonight? Go to ChatGPT. Like, and like it's writing full essays.
Oh yeah.
And from what I know, it's free, right?
There's a free version. It does limit you with how much you can say to it per day and how big its responses are. Then there's a subscribed version you pay for, which is actually the newer model. The more advanced model is not open to the general public yet.
I'm afraid to ask this, but do you pay for it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I've thought about just doing it for a month and playing around with it, but I haven't. But what I think the future really is, though, which is probably within a year, maybe sooner, is everyone's going to have their own chat GPT on their own server. Or it'll be whatever chat, you'll be able to customize it, like, oh, I want a robot that writes fan fiction for me, or I want a robot that helps me
Okay.
do my homework. And everyone's going to start writing their own custom AIs, and maybe you'll pay for those, or maybe they'll find some way to monetize it. But it's not going to, right now, I think people don't have the processing power to run
Right.
some of these more advanced ones. That's why it's
And
all on
like
another server.
it's been around for a long time in some form or another. Like when you call up to like a call center or something, there's some kind of AI driven thing running those phone trees and stuff like that. But it's very basic.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, this is going to replace certain things, certain like ask Google or ask ask Yahoo Answers.
Jeeves?
Ask Jeeves. That's what it is.
But I do feel like, in general, this whole AI movement, to me, I think this is on the level of like when the internet first came out. I feel
Yeah.
like, or smartphones, like this is the next thing that is truly going to revolutionize how we operate in society.
Yeah.
Every day it's a little scary and a little crazy how far it goes.
Well, let
to
me ask you
but-
this. Speaking of the scary thing, because of course now because it's new technology and everybody's scared by new tech because why not? Do
Sorry,
you
I got
think it's
scared.
going to take our jobs?
I mean, it might take some jobs.
Explain.
It might make some jobs easier, but well, in the same way that a car
It's
manufacturer.
AI, not
Oh,
a car.
sorry. I always get that confused.
So,
In the same way that Thomas Edison's light bulbs, or Tesla's, whoever actually invented,
Right.
I don't know, took the job of candle makers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think taking jobs is necessarily a bad thing, because it may also make new jobs and just make life easier. I mean, when people talk about the fear of AI taking their jobs, what they really should be talking about is the fact that capitalism is so oppressive that that's a concern.
well, it's like the same thing. Like, there's a bunch of, like, I'm in the art community, photographer, editor, or whatever, and like people are like, "Oh, AI art is like putting people out of jobs," but it's like, is it really though? Because were you making these pieces for people anyway? They were underpaying you. They were doing whatever. I'm a professional photographer, and Instagram kind of stepped on our feet for a while. We just pushed through it, and now we use it as a tool.
It's kind of like, how there was Napster, and now they created Spotify. They're like, okay, MP3s are a thing. We're going to work with that.
Right. Yeah, it's scary for like a second, but then it's like, oh, we just need to learn to like move forward with it.
I think people have said it's going to come down to now, like, the future graphic designers will be more the people who know how to manipulate the AI the best.
Right.
But I do feel like there's a point coming soon where, and art is a whole different thing where, especially newer companies who don't have that much money, rather than hiring someone to make a logo, they just type in, make a logo that looks like this and this and this.
Right. And I thought about that the other day too. Like, for the first few years of when I was like 15 making video stuff, I would just take stuff off of Google and put it into my videos without paying for it. Where you're literally stealing from an artist, where now you're using AI to do that, and it's not really stealing from an artist, it's stealing a style, which all art is stealing from a style.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird gray areas.
And you're more of a writer than I am, and do you think it's like something that would be pushing you out of a job? As like, you write for, like, you do reviews for video games and stuff.
I mean, right now it's certainly, it's in some ways it's helping people, because you can use it to proofread what you've done and have it help you rewrite or help you come up with ideas. I have heard stories about people writing entire books with AI and selling them on Amazon and stuff like that.
How much different is that from getting a ghostwriter?
Right. Or how different is it from any, like, why do we, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is wrong, but we value human writing over robot writing. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe maybe the difference isn't as important. Maybe, like, in 50 years, maybe people won't care. I'll just be like, sure, you write a book with a robot or you don't. I don't know. It's too new right now. There's just too many things that could happen that I feel like taking a firm stance one way or the other is a little bit foolish, because you have no idea where this is going to be in 10 years.
And like what I'll use AI for, and I forgot the website or the app that I've used, is for like mundane things I just don't care. Not that I don't care about, but like coming up with a video title for YouTube.
Oh yeah, stuff like that is great.
Like, here's 5 facts about my video. Figure this out.
This is true. We used ChatGPT to help generate possible titles and like slogans for this very podcast.
Right. Like, I'm a content creator. I'm not a SEO expert.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there can be somebody else we can get for that. And where for like even this show, for example, we're not making money on it yet. So like,
I am, but
I'm sorry. We need to get something like a chat or an AI to help us generate that until we can.
Yeah. I am not afraid of AI right now. I'm excited about it. I mean, I think it could be scary, but mostly I think it's very fun and exciting to see how it develops. But
and it's also still very flawed too. Like, you still need to go through. Like, if you like AI an image, if you look closely, it's like it doesn't know how to do ears properly yet.
But
like
I think we're
like
months away from those flaws going away.
And people are saying, like, we even mentioned, like, it's quick, but like it's been around for a while. Like we were like when we brought up the smarter child.
Right.
That was kind of the starts of it. Now it's just kind of like, well, we
Sure.
have this technology, and maybe people were thinking about this during COVID when they were sitting at home figuring
Yeah.
stuff out.
It's all coming to a head right now. This is not a case we're going to settle on today's show. That's
No.
that's beyond the scope of our abilities as judges.
But do you think a book club would be pushed out by an AI? Like, do you think having an actual book club to go to and talk with people, like, would AI take that over someday?
Interesting point. Interesting that you bring that up. Yeah, if you
Why?
could just talk with a group of AIs, you wouldn't need to gather a group of people together, I suppose. Well,
Right.
that does, in a weird coincidence, tie into today's actual case, which we're going to get
Oh.
to now that we've got past AI. Because today's case, which comes to us from the internet, you can find a link in our episode description.
Which may or may not have been written by AI.
It probably was. It's up to you to figure it out. It's a little game we like to play. This case revolves around a woman we'll call Matilda. Matilda is an avid reader and was a member of a regularly meeting book club for a few years until 1 year recently when the club got a bunch of new members, and suddenly the category of books that they were reading shifted to exclusively sci-fi or fantasy novels. Matilda, not being the biggest fan of either genre, tries to suggest alternatives now and again, but is consistently shot down. Frustrated, she decides to start her own book club, inviting some members of the first club to join, and it's a great success, as Borat would say. However, former book club runner Agatha feels that Matilda has poached her former members and is acting childish for refusing to expand her horizons and read a different kind of book than she's used to. Now the two competing book clubs are at war with each other, and Matilda's caught in the crossfire. As dual judges here on Geeks on Trial, it's our job to determine whether Matilda's new nook for books is a good look, or if she's a schnook and a crook for those members she took.
Now, is Matilda's father Roald Dahl? Is that who wrote those?
That I couldn't confirm, but yes, Roald Dahl did author the Matilda book.
He did. Okay. So
This is our first. Can I say it? Can I be the one who says it?
Yeah.
This is our first bookcase.
We should name it. Billy?
Billy is I don't know what it is. That's a very good name for a bookcase, though. Yeah.
It just came to me off the top of my head.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yep.
So we haven't talked books before, but they maybe more than any other.
We kind of have
comic books.
Comics, yeah, I
yeah,
count
that's
that.
true. Okay, written textbooks,
Novels.
novels,
It's a novel idea that we start doing.
literature. Yes, it is a novel idea. You're right. This certainly is in the realm of geekdom.
Yes.
Arguably, at this stage in our society and culture, more so, I think books are almost geekier now than movies or video games. Well, it depends on the type of book, I suppose. Because there's plenty of popular bestsellers that you wouldn't consider that geeky to be reading, like a John Grisham or something, but or like Oprah's book club kind of books.
Does a book club still exist for Oprah now that she doesn't have a TV show?
I think it will exist forever, just because it's a sticker they can put and it will sell a book. But it certainly falls into the category of things that we discuss on this show. Have you ever? Maybe we should just start big, and say, "What are you? Are you a reader?"
I want to be. I have books. I'll have times where I'm like, oh, let me buy this book, and then just forget I own it because life has come up, or a movie came on, or something shiny was in a window. Like I want to be such a book reader. I have a Kindle. I have ebooks. I've even tried audiobooks, but yes and no. In spirit, I am a reader because I read. Technically, I read a lot online, but not necessarily books.
Right.
Which is kind of weird. People always like, oh, this generation doesn't read. We probably read more than
right
past generations. But I try to read at least, like, I know this is such a low number, but like at least 3 books a year.
Yeah.
I try to, which is a sad number when like people I know are like, I read like 25 books a month, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, wish that I read more. When I was a kid, I loved reading. I read
absolutely.
everything and anything that there was. But, eh, as I've gotten older, part of the problem is I will often read before bed and it makes me sleepy.
Right.
So it takes me like 6 months to get through a book because I just read 3 pages and then fall asleep.
Well, that's the thing too. Or like I'll be reading, like me and my partner will be in the living room. He's playing a video game. I'll be on the couch reading a book, and then I get distracted, and then I forgot there's a book.
Yeah, but within the last year or so, I got a Kindle for the first time. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I don't know. And that has encouraged me to try to up my reading because I really do like the convenience of it and not having some books are just annoying to hold and deal. I know a lot of people love the physical and it has its charms.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you like, because for me, like, because I read so infrequently, I like to have that. This is going to sound lame, but that trophy to have on a shelf. Like, I finished this book. This is going on my shelf. But also, like, it's a big waste of space.
Yeah, I have reached a point a couple years ago. I did kind of a big spring cleaning thing, and I tried to get rid of a bunch of stuff. And a part of that was a lot of books.
Right.
And that's when going with the Kindle, I kind of made the decision. Unless it's a book I really love, like by an author I really know I'm going to love, or if it's like, something with a lot of illustrations or like a coffee table book, I'm trying to almost exclusively go digital just because I don't need more. I have enough junk.
Right. Like if it's like a Stephen King book, it's like, okay, fine. He pumps out a book every month. Like I could probably get that digital or.
Yeah.
I have looking at my bookshelf now, it's like a lot of photography and film books, like a lot of those style of books that I like to have paper copies of. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I've been going hard in that direction. Now, have you ever been part of a book club?
Not one that's like succeeded. Like I definitely think back in like college, like our friend group has like tried to do a book club here and there. You, me, and people we've known.
I remember just one time I thought it would be really fun. Maybe this was in college. I don't know. Maybe after. I was like, oh, we should all do a book club and we'll read cool, fun books. I remember I was like, Jurassic Park could be the first book we read.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
And nobody ever... I read it. Nobody could ever like get... We never made the push to make it.
Well, that was the issue too during college and when you're in school, like because you're also reading because you have to.
Oh, sure, that's the whole thing
for school. But like, I've read Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Because I probably bought it.
You mean on the IMDb?
Yep. Because I probably bought it for that time and then just never read it during that time.
Yeah. I recently read Inherent Vice.
Okay.
Took me longer than it should have because I watched the movie. That's kind of a fun way to. Sometimes that'll encourage me to want to read something. Same thing happened with the movie Annihilation, which I loved. I was like, I got to read there's actually a trilogy of books that's based on, and I loved the books as well. So that's kind of a fun way to get into something. Or like the Song of Ice and Fire books I read after watching Game of Thrones.
Have you ever, were you part of a book club besides the one we failed?
Not other than, unless you count, like you said, being in school.
Right.
I've never.
Well, because unless you're like physically meeting with people, I feel like that's like the whole fun of it. Like, oh, we're going to have, talk about these books, have wine, have dinner. Like it's a thing. Well, where like, I don't know.
Let's say this now. I think this is interesting to discuss because we were kind of talking about this earlier. It does seem like book clubs, traditionally and stereotypically, are a predominantly female thing.
Right. Like in pop culture, it's always like the Oprah book club is always followed by women.
Yeah. And I don't know why that is. Is it... It's just seen as a feminine pastime to read books?
I think it's a stereotypical... Well, a mom's at home during the day, not working, so she has time to read, even though, they don't. But I think that's where, like, it kind of falls
hardest job in the world. Yeah.
What, reading books?
Reading books. No, podcasting.
He's right. But, yeah, I think that's where, like, that stereotype falls into play. Because, like, if you think about people who watch Oprah, it's usually people who are home at 3 o'clock, which stereotypically was a mom taking care of children. Where that's not true.
I do also feel like there's kind of a stronger push in marketing a lot of mainstream books. I just feel like you have the types of books that are, have the pretty covers with bright colors and, are like about a woman's journey across America or whatever it is.
Right.
There's a big market for that type of literature, and the sort of more male skewing books I feel like are, like the Tom Clancy or Stephen King maybe a little bit, although he's kind of everybody, but that are, I don't know, it feels like there's this idea that's perpetuated that, which is true in all of society. It's really just a patriarchal thing that a dude like just reads a book by himself and doesn't want to talk about his thoughts with his bros. And girls like to share and talk to each other.
Well, I also think too, like, it's not a book club, but like we do a lot of tabletop gaming and stuff, which is a reading heavy hobby.
Yeah, we read the rule books.
Well, you read rule books. You do like D&D is heavy reading. It's like,
sure, a lot of reading if you're a DM.
Right, or like, it depends on the games you play, but like I would say our generation, which I hate to use that term, does read more than potential past generations.
I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know if
if you're using the metric you were using earlier, we're just reading in general, definitely.
Right. But I would be interested to see like how books are doing sales wise. I have been reading. I've been doing plays more too because they're quick, or screenplays, or
Yeah, that's fun.
If it's an hour and a half play, it takes you about an hour and a half to read it.
Some Shakespeare.
No, I'm too dumb.
I keep wanting to make a push to read more classic novels. Like over Christmas, this last Christmas, I for the first time, it's very short, but I read Christmas Carol.
Oh, so did I, but
Charles
for a different reason. So I was the technical director for a community theater version of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, so it's a good excuse. I mean, I went and saw it. That's part of the reason I think I wanted to do it. And then I was like all excited. I was like, this was fun. I downloaded every Charles Dickens book on which is another great thing about Kindles. You can they'll be like
free
on Amazon, like for free or for like $3, like just every book by this famous author. Just click and you have them.
And
of course,
I also
haven't
think
read any of them yet.
A book club too is a big time commitment, because like I'm a slower reader, where like some other people might be able to get through a book in like a week, and like you have to kind of keep up with people, and like reading a book it's longer than watching a film or doing other things, which is why I think I go towards plays and screenplays more. I do like short stories a lot too. I do have a book of like Edgar Allan Poe short stories.
Sure.
Stuff like that. But I don't think I could ever see myself joining a book club.
I kind of, not to get ahead of our plugs again. I'm always trying to sneak plugs in before this show is over. But I did kind of join a book club of sorts, which is my Animorphs book podcast. I have for the last 9 weeks or so, every week I have read an Animorphs book. Now those books take on average 90 minutes to 2 hours to read. They're pretty quick.
Right. How many pages is an average?
I think they're like 150 to 200, something like that. I mean, but
like
also
fairly large font and
yeah. They're young adults and they're pretty. Like the language is very straightforward. They're not complicated reads. But
they're typical. They're a scholastic book. Like they're that kind of.
So I have kind of been having this experience of reading a book and then discussing it, and it is enjoyable.
Now, has your podcast partner kicked you out of that book club, or wanted to change for any reason?
He's tried. It's tough since I am the only other one on the show.
He's like, I'm done with you.
But yeah, let's talk specifics about this case, because Matilda did leave because she kept trying to pitch other books, and this new group only wanted to read sci-fi and fantasy, which she doesn't really like.
Well, and that's not how they started either. They started as just like a generic, hey, let's pick a book every week, and then here we go.
Yeah,
but that's kind of like a dick thing. Like if you sign up for like a book club or any kind of club, and you expect it to be like variety, or like, hey, this week you pick a book, next week you pick a book. But I guess,
Yeah.
but if all those people are fans of sci-fi, then you're going to get into that well of things. Like, your next group could be all horror because these people just might like horror books.
It does seem strange to transform a club. Like it didn't seem like it was a gradual change. For some reason, they just got a bunch of new members, and that everybody was into the sci-fi fantasy, which would be for me like probably my ideal book club.
Well, what do you think would be the most, right now, 2023, what do you think would be the most popular book genre?
Interesting.
Going by like what movies are out and stuff. Like for a while it was always like the romance stuff, but like what do you think?
My honest guess is if you were to go by sales numbers, is it's probably nonfiction.
Right.
It's probably memoirs and biographies and like political books and things
Well, there
like
is a
that.
correct answer and you answered wrong. It's the Bible.
Shit.
Yep.
Like I said, nonfiction.
Sorry. Oh, he's right. No, but I would be interested, like, okay, when this book club was happening, was like a big push for like sci-fi movies or like, that kind of thing.
Well, she says
Or
this was 2018, around then, so not that long ago. So I don't
Right.
think there was any great. I mean, I do think after Game of Thrones
Yeah.
hit big on HBO, I'm sure there was a bigger push for fantasy
Right.
novels.
Which makes sense. Or like, I mean, I feel like fantasy has been huge for a while because like Game of Thrones, then before that was, like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. And like for like a good 20 to 30 year span,
Yeah.
fantasy and sci-fi have kind of gone hand in hand in always being the top popular book series.
They're definitely big, but I do feel like they're, in a way, they're a very, very large niche still. And I do feel like sci-fi and fantasy in particular can be somewhat polarizing.
Right.
Like I really think before Game of Thrones, most people a lot of people who watched Game of Thrones would say, I'm not into fantasy stuff.
Right.
Maybe Lord of the Rings they like, but they wouldn't, if you told them, read my new fantasy novel about the kingdom of Westeros and there's dragons, they'd be like, ugh.
See, I used to be able to mock pushing up glasses, but I'm getting older.
Now you have to do it for real.
Actually,
just take them off when you do it.
Right. Because that makes sense though, because like a lot of things are just based around that. It's like people being like, "Oh, I'm not into tabletop gaming, but I'll play Exploding Kittens."
Sure, Catan even. Yeah, that's
right.
You need
Rip.
one breakout mainstream hit,
Right.
and the rest falls into place. I mean, what would you do in this position?
I feel like
would you leave?
I would just like these weren't like okay. Let me get this.
What's the equivalent of what's the book genre that would make you leave if that's all they read?
Probably like romance novels.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The cheesy like Fabio, long hair, riding the horse romance novels.
Which probably that's a contender for the actual best-selling book genre, I would bet.
Probably still, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they could just pump those out like nothing. But I don't. Was she like friends with these people, or was it like Matilda just found this group?
It sounds like it's a group she found. The way she puts it is she joined a book club. So.
And like anything else, like if you're like we've talked about with the gaming groups in a previous episode, that if you're not friends with these people and you don't have a personal connection with them, you kind of have to bounce around until you find that connection. Like we have a gaming group that meets every week, and it's very rare that people have that connection. Like we just happen to be friends and also board gamers. So like it's hard for people to find that kind of niche where like she, I guess, kind of got upset because this group changed. So she just left.
Yeah, yeah.
Like she doesn't have a connection to these folks.
Right. Well, it sounds like she formed some type of connection at least because she did invite some of them to join her new group.
Right.
And some of them joined too. So it sounds like maybe it's a little interesting because it sounds like she wasn't maybe alone in wanting to read a variety of different book types, but she also makes it sound like she was the only one who was suggesting non-sci-fi books. So
Well, and that's like, I also would love to know the information. Like, was it always one person picking the books every week or every meeting? Or was it like everyone kind of brought their stuff to the table and it just happened to be different people always clicking with sci-fi? Which both could happen.
you'd think there should be, I would think, some kind of system in place so that each month or whatever you can rotate who gets to pick the book,
Right.
or I guess maybe they had a voting process, in which case I guess if everybody just always outvotes her, then that doesn't work. But
And I guess it could be like anything else. It starts being like a popularity thing where it's like, oh, you know, John picked the group, he hosts the party, so now he's, you know, in charge of it.
right, yeah, freaking John, I hate that guy.
Goddamn, John.
He's always ruining things.
Does it bother you that it's always John Doe and Jane? Like, you're a John.
I don't think of myself as John.
Good.
That's not who I am.
You go by Johnny
Generally, I go by Johnny Boy,
or Han.
or Han.
Right.
I really mainly go by. I did see that. Not to go on too much of a tangent. The new Dungeons and Dragons movie. There is a minor character in the movie whose name is Jarnathan, and I really liked that. I want to be Jarnathan.
Have you tried changing it on your license yet?
I
probably
did.
easy.
Yeah, I just took a Sharpie and I went in there and.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, that's probably legal.
Yeah, well, I did white out first. Go on.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. So, like, would you have a problem? Like, we're both kind of like not timid people, but we're both cowards. Would you like make a scene? Like, would you bring it up? Like, oh, we're always reading the same book, or would you kind of like just bow out gracefully and be like, I'm not coming back next week?
Yeah, it's a lot of that depends on, you know, like you said, how well do I know these people? What kind of relationship do we have? It sounds like maybe this group has been meeting online.
Right.
I'm not, and so if it were like a exclusively online group, and let's say there were, it sounds like there have to be at least 10 members because she says like a bunch of new people joined. At that amount of people, I would probably feel comfortable just kind of not showing up.
Right. And especially online, just kind of like, oh, I didn't get the email.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or
you
just
know.
quietly being like, I'm really busy these days.
Right. Kind of like make up a thing. Oh, gotta go
I'm
to the
just going to
doctors.
drop out.
Can't. Right.
But if it were an in-person group, then I feel like it's much harder to.
Right.
Then, because if you're going to like see these people in your daily life or something,
Right.
then it's more awkward. Then you have to figure that out.
So would you push to be like, no, I don't want to read science fiction anymore. I want to read something else.
If it was really a genre I really didn't like, and let's say it was like the third or fourth book in a row, yeah, I think I probably would say, hey, and especially if you first just try to suggest, how about this? How about a change of pace this month? Let's try this
Right.
or this.
Trying to be nice about it.
Kept getting rejected. Yeah, I probably would just say, hey, I'm leaving. Like, have fun with your group.
Yeah, and then like, and the other half of it is starting another book club. She doesn't owe these people. It's not like it's a money-making venture. It's not like she's stealing their thunder.
Well, here's really the key part of this is the dispute primarily is over asking the old members to join versus, I guess, starting a brand new club wholly separate from the original one. And, it makes sense. I understand why she would do that. You have a ready-made group of people that you know are interested in book clubs. It almost might be even considered more rude if you just don't tell anybody about your new book club.
Right, be like, I'm peacing out. Sorry, bye. You know.
You're not invited. Like, I don't
and
like
that way
you.
too, like, I'm sure these people who left with her had the same thoughts as she did. Oh, we're doing this again. Maybe we'll do something else. And also, as said in the case file, you can be in more than one club.
It's true. It's true. Now, I suppose from Agatha's perspective, she might be thinking that it's harder to keep up with the club. If you're trying to read 2 books a month or whatever it is, maybe some people will just drop out and pick one over the other. And that's what she's worried about, is that, which I guess if it were me, my feelings might be hurt if everybody left one group and joined up with another one.
Right. Which would, would be awful.
But maybe there's a
But it's
reason for that.
also how tight are they as a group? Like, are they friendly? Or are they friends? Are they just, we just meet online for this group?
Yeah.
And, like, are you never speaking to these people again unless it's about a book?
Right. It's also another thing if it doesn't sound like this wasn't explicitly stated in the case, but it certainly is something else if Matilda is scheduling their meetings for the same time as the other meetings or something like that.
Oh, you're having your meetings on Wednesdays at 5? I'm at 4:30.
I mean, that is a factor because we both know how hard it is to get people to commit to anything on any kind of a basis. And so it is another ask to be like, if you want to be in both clubs, that's 2 evenings out of however often that you now are focusing on a book and needing to remember which book is which. So there's no basis there for being upset, I don't think, on Agatha's part.
I'm sure I would feel like if I was the original host of the book club, I would feel a little backstabbed. But at the same time, like, how hard, like, if these people aren't loyal to you, let's say, how hard is it to find other people?
Right. I mean, you got to assume it's, again, I'm assuming this is online.
Yeah.
At least she specifies that the new book club, I think, was kind of put together during COVID times. So that's my assumption. I got to imagine there's a wide variety of people online who would join a book club.
Oh, absolutely.
Unless you're really attached to these people, which maybe you are. You could find more folks to fill up your group if you needed to.
Right.
So, there certainly is reason perhaps for Agatha to be upset. I don't know. Any other big points you feel like where we haven't touched on?
Not really, because, like, she tried to talk to them into being like, hey, let's have some variety, which I feel like is a big thing. Like, yeah, sure, there's a ton of science fiction novels out there, but throw in some variety every now and then, because if you keep going back and you keep having the same ice cream flavor, it's going to get boring after a while. It's going to be,
Unless I think if you, from the start, you're like, hey, we have a sci-fi book club. Like, that's what it's called.
Like, if it was advertised as a generic book club, where we, every week or whatever, go through a different thing, everybody picks and brings in their book, and then you just say 1 week, we're doing sci-fi from now on.
Yeah, right.
Then that's kind of...
Then what do you expect? Then it's only natural that if everyone's not on board.
And I really can't blame this girl for moving over and asking the people she may have bonded with to come join her. She might not even ask them. She might have said, hey, I'm doing this. It's an open invitation.
Right. Like I said, I think it's almost worse to be like, you're not allowed to join.
And I'm sure she wasn't being vindictive about it. I'm sure she wasn't like, I want to shut down your book club. Well,
it sounds like we have verdicts ready. I think we're in agreement here.
I think all books should be banned and burned.
And that's the natural conclusion. Yep. The cause of this dispute is books. If you eliminate books,
bad.
Yeah, the Bible, look at what that's caused.
Yep.
Mein Kampf.
Yep.
We shouldn't have books.
No books. Books are bad. Maybe phone books. I like phone
Catcher
books.
in the Rye. If it weren't for books, John Lennon would be alive today.
What was she doing in the Rye?
I don't know, but she's fast, and I was not able to catch her. So
I barely even know her.
I think that it's possible that there's information we don't have that could lead to Matilda being slightly guilty in this case. As mentioned, the scheduling of the thing, how she went about inviting people.
Right.
There could have been some level of vindictiveness, as you said. I think there maybe was. However, I'm going to operate on the assumption that what we have in the case file is being presented in an accurate and honest way. And in that regard, I don't think there's anything wrong about leaving a group to suit your needs and starting a new one and letting those people join. So for me, it's a not guilty.
I 100% agree. It's not guilty because you can't, if you don't like something, you can't just force yourself to be there every week. And if some of your fellow readers decided to also join your book club, that is free will. They are allowed to come as they wish. They potentially, we don't know, could be in both book clubs. Nothing's stopping somebody from reading two books in a period of time. So yeah, I agree with you.
So your verdict is
Not guilty?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just needed to stand for the record. The bailiff
Not guilty.
needed to hear that.
I'm getting a scam likely phone call as well. It might be Matilda.
You better pick it up. There could be some kind of a reward for you there.
Oh.
So now it's time we must hand out our sentencing for Agatha because we've decided she's the one in the wrong here, not Matilda. I mean, I always, the first thing that comes to mind is usually the more boring sentencing, but it's just to...
Right, like the boring sentencing would be like she has to join other groups.
Yeah, she has to read a bunch of books from a genre she doesn't like.
I'll go first with this one.
Yeah, is there something more fun that we can give her?
She has to read every phone book from every state, cover to cover. But she has to find them because I don't know if they still make phone books. So she has to have a phone book reading book club.
Okay. Wow. I mean, that's really bad.
Yeah, she has to let her fingers do the walking. And if you get that reference, it's time for you to go to bed.
I don't think I get that reference.
It's a Yellow Page thing. Their logo was the fingers going through the book.
Wow.
Let your fingers do the walking.
Wow. Okay.
Yep,
yeah,
sorry for that.
I'm gonna give an alternative. So I think we'll let Agatha decide which punishment she wants. Similar along those same lines, but I just think every month she has to read through both the Bible and Mein Kampf
at the same time.
Yeah, and discuss them. She's got the two. It's unanimous. We've all decided the two most harmful and worst written books.
Yep.
I don't know who I'm offending. People are confused listening to this. They're like, he doesn't like the Bible or Hitler. Which side am I supposed to land on?
That's how we get those clicks, baby.
You generate that controversy. That's the way you do it. So hopefully that works out for everybody. But I think now it's time for us to start our own book club. That's going to be, we get enough patrons. That could be a new Patreon tier.
Well, I don't have time to read full books. So how about it's a tweet club? We have to read tweets.
Oh, that sounds good.
That's good. Nice and
maybe
short.
Like a pamphlet club.
Pamphlet club. That'll be good. You have to go to a different truck stop and get a pamphlet.
Short. We could do short stories exclusively.
Mm-hmm. Very short.
That could be fun.
Fortune cookie club.
Oh. He's right.
He's right.
Well, we gave our verdict on this case, but I'd really love to read verdicts from our listeners and or viewers on this one.
How could they send them to us?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. You could write them to us at our email address, which is geeksontrial@gmail.com. We also have a handy form in their description, which you can find via a link. That's like a URL on the internet. Look it up. And this will allow you...
URL?
Yeah, it's 3 more letters. It's sort of like GPT or AI. It's a URL.
It's too many.
AIM. You can use this form to submit your own case. If you have had some kind of a dispute in your life that relates to books, movies, comic books, anything in the geeky realm, submit it to us, and we will discuss it on the show and settle it for you right here.
And
cool.
So we can keep the show going and have more fun talking in letters and numbers and chat GBTs and all that fun stuff and AI. You can support us by going over to our Patreon and giving us a couple bucks a month so you can get the episodes for free. Well, not for free. You'd be paying for them. You can get them early is what I'm trying to say.
That's right.
And you can do that over at patreon.com/geeksontrial.
Yeah. You could also, if you don't want to spend money, you could just give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your other podcast catcher of choice. That really helps us out. Leave reviews, tell your friends, spread the word. We would appreciate it.
And if you're watching this as a video, we are also a podcast where you can find us on any podcasts?
You can find those podcasts
of your choice. And if you're listening to us in audio form, you can find us over on YouTube.
Catch us however your eyes or ears desire. If you want to follow us specifically outside of the show, I'm on Twitter at Quentz. And as I mentioned, if you're a bookworm, then you're definitely going to want to check out my other podcast, which is called The Yerky Boys, an Animorphs podcast in which we read through the entire series of the Animorphs books.
And you can find more of my work over on YouTube, where I review and eat snacks. In that order, I review them, then I eat them. It's very, very weird.
You do it in an interesting way.
I am the Snack Guy on YouTube.
Go check that out. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. It was a really fun time. I'm glad.
Who are you?
I liked this. It was like a legal club. Is what
it was
this
a legal
is.
club. That's what it was.
My name's Jonathan Estes.
My name's Ivan Hahn, and this has been Geeks on Trial.